Good evening and welcome to the Board of Commissioners meeting this September 28, 2021. Tonight I'm pleased to have with us Pastor John Wilson of Gillum Community Church. He is going to lead us in our invocation. It will be followed by the pledge provided by Deputy Peace, who has been with the Cobb County Sheriff's Office since 2017. For all of those willing and able, please stand for the invocation and pledge.
Let us pray. Eternal and gracious God, the creator of all creation, the creator of judgment, Spirit of the living God, fall fresh in this place. Heavenly Father, we ask right now that unity be in Cobb County and the Board of Commissioners, all the elected officials, and all the people above. Heavenly Father, we're grateful to see a day that we've never seen, nor we ever see again. We ask right now that your Spirit subside with us right now. Forgive us of any sin known and unknown, even our very secret sins. Heavenly Father, we rebuke division right now in the name of Jesus. Amen. Whatever differences that we have, Heavenly Father, we have to remember that you are the supreme ruler. No ups, no downs, no idiosyncrasies. Let us lay aside every weight that easily beset us. Allow us to be unified in this meeting, even with our differences. No black, no white, no Republican or Democrat, but we all bleed red blood. Allow us to be united like never before. Have grace upon us. Have mercy upon us. Forgive us. In Jesus' name I pray, I declare, decree with angelic angels watching over the board of Cobb County. Do it, God. Have your way. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Amen.
Please join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, our meeting is officially called to order. Today, I'm pleased to share that we have 3 presentations today. The first will be to recognize the Tigoto Foundation for their contributions to Cobb County. If I can have those who are here with the organization to please join me up front. Okay, so I'll speak first. Yep. All right. So we have a treat in store for us today in recognition of the Tigoto Foundation. They have been with us in Cobb County and actually engaging our young people to have a sense of pride in their Hispanic or Mexican heritage. And I think this is very fitting, considering that we are in Heritage Month, to recognize what you've been doing here, and we're going to have opportunity to see some members of the organization soon. So this is a certificate of recognition to Tigoto Foundation. The Cobb County BOC would like to recognize you for all the work the organization and volunteers have done to preserve, share, and educate the community on the cultural activities from Mexico. Your nonprofit has provided younger generations opportunities to practice folkloric dances, charreria, and preserve other artistic traditions. We thank you for all the work you have done and the work you are continuing to do in the Hispanic community. This the 20th day of September 2021. And I'll pass you the mic if you'd like to share a few words about your organization. You're welcome. You can take those.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much. Tigoto Foundation was founded 10 years ago by our CEO, Father Jaime Molina, at St. Thomas the Apostle Catholic Church in Smyrna. 5 years ago, we decided to become a nonprofit, and our organization's mission is to promote and preserve Mexican culture in the United States through cultural activities. The group has around 100 members of all ages, but our focus is the youth. We currently have a folk dance group and a charreria group, which is Mexican livestock herding practices. The participants learn and promote their abilities through a variety of events while simultaneously promoting identity, unity, and diversity. In addition, our foundation has supported various causes to help the Hispanic community while providing for the poor, respecting diversity, and promoting values and faith. Thank you.
Thank you. And if we can have those who are here on behalf of the organization, we have a treat in store for everyone. Thank you. And so it's activities like that that a number of youth have opportunity to participate in, and it gives them an opportunity to, again, connect to their heritage and have some sense of pride, I think, and be rooted as they are here in our culture. And I appreciate their organization being willing to recognize diversity, because it's the unique blend that we all bring to our country that helps to make it as dynamic as it is. So I'm here to take a picture, but I don't want to be just by myself. If those with the foundation would like to join me. Join me here, Father. You sure? Okay, thank you.
All right, very good. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good. Thank you. Appreciate you being here. Thank you. All right, our next presentation will be to present a proclamation to the Reverend Stephen L. Mintz, Sr., for his 30 years of community service in Cobb County.
Thank you. Reverend Mintz, can you come down and bring Mike with you? Oh, who else is with you?
That's Robert. That's it.
Robert, hey.
You don't watch TV? All right. That's the other one.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
You're the agent, right?
I'm agent. I'm 80.
He's aging.
So you were around when the Globetrotters consisted of Curly and Meadowlark.
Will Chamberlain.
That's the ones I
You stole
remember.
my girl.
That's the ones I remember.
Okay, all right.
Okay, sorry, folks. We're here tonight to honor this magnificent man, Reverend Stephen Mintz, Sr. And I'm going to read this proclamation, and then he's going to say a few words, and he's going to turn it over to our talented basketball players here. Reverend Stephen Mintz was born in 1967 in Cobb County at Kennestone Hospital. He graduated from Marietta High School in 1986 and went into ministry at 18 years of age. He joined the Back to the Bible Church in 1985 under the leadership of the late Bishop Raymond Moss Sr. He was trained in teaching and preaching of the Bible in the Pentecostal charismatic style, and in 2005 was ordained a minister by the late Bishop Moss. He traveled across the country with Bishop Moss assisting in the old-fashioned Pentecostal tent revivals and prayer services. After 20 years of service under the late Bishop Moss, Reverend Mintz was called into outreach ministry serving the homeless and single moms. And whereas Reverend Mintz is an advisory board member for Cobb District 2 Commissioner Jerica Richardson and serves on the board of directors of Zion Keepers, which serves Cobb County's homeless community. He attends Greater Grace International and has been assisting in prayer intercessory at Greater Community for the last 11 years. During the pandemic, he is assisting Bobby Hunt of the Harlem Globetrotters in promoting the importance of wearing masks and preserving the health of the community. For the last 8 years, he has worked with special needs children at Comfort Community Center. And whereas his years of service has garnered numerous awards, including the Citizen of the Year Award from the NAACP, a proclamation resolution for community service, a community service certificate given by the Women of Worth Leadership, and a letter of appreciation given by Governor Brian Kemp. And therefore, we, the Cobb County Board of Commissioners, do hereby honor Reverend Stephen Mintz Sr. for his unwavering commitment to our community, his leadership, and for his 30 years of community service in Cobb County. This is the 28th day of September, 2021.
All right.
God bless you. You want to say a few words?
I'd just like to say it's been an honor serving these 30 years, and I'm looking for 30 more, and God bless you all.
And would you like to say a few words?
Yes, my name is Bobby Zarro Hunter. As you know, I'm spokesman for the retired Harlem Globetrotters. We have a national health program around the country. And one of the programs is we go in and tell young kids to put their masks on and wash their hands. And the other is we're helping the homeless. We'd like to thank, what Mintz did was tremendous, coming to one of our schools and giving out masks and giving them encouragement. So we have a number of artists, so we'd like to thank him for what he did. Yes, I made him look a little younger. Thank you very much. And of course, we have our talented legend, Michael Douglas.
Okay, here he goes.
I might as well spin my magic ball, huh? All right, keep your eyes on the magic ball. You say you won't help me?
Let me help you.
Let me see that thing. Let's see how good she is.
Oh, boy.
Yes, yes.
Thank you so much.
And we
Thank
do
you.
plan on bringing our show to the area. Hopefully we can help some organizations in the county in their fundraising efforts. So we look
Thank
forward
you.
to teaming up. So
And-
thank y'all so very much.
Also, our Deputy Chief Scott Hamilton is here tonight with us, and he is over our Police Athletic League, which is our youth athletes. And I have just hooked him up with Reverend Mintz and the Globetrotters, so we expect to see the PAL group here next.
He said he was going to be the first one to sign up to play against us.
Oh, yeah, I don't know about that, Scott. We got to get a picture.
Oh, okay.
He's going to be twirling.
I got you.
All right, here we go.
Can't see my smile, but I got the ball.
Now, 3, 2, got it.
All right. Thank
You are
y'all so very
awesome.
much.
Thank you so much.
Twirl it slower next time.
And thank you, Dawn.
Thank you, sir. God bless y'all.
Thank you, darling. I appreciate you.
I'm so excited to see you.
All right.
It's entertainment night. Dancing and basketball.
Alrighty, our next presentation will be to provide a proclamation to Miss Deanne Bonner in honor of her 86th birthday.
Is she here?
Yes.
Here she comes. That's a hard act to follow, but Miss Bonner, if anybody can do that, you can. Hey, Jareen. How are you? Hey, Jesse. How you, sir?
Great.
Would any of y'all like to come down?
No, you come up here. They taking pictures.
That's not Sydney.
That's my granddaughter.
Okay.
Hi, how are you?
Tonight, we have the honor of recognizing this fine lady here, Miss Deanne Bonner, and her family with us. I think everybody in Cobb County knows Deanne Bonner. And she has served in this community. I'm going to read the proclamation. But last year during COVID, she wasn't able to celebrate her big 85th birthday. So this year, we're celebrating it a little late tonight, but we're doing it. Whereas Miss Deanne Bonner has been a resident of Marietta and an important part of Cobb County since 1971. She has been a member of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People since 1960 and a life member since 1980. Bonner has served as president of the Cobb County chapter for 20 years. Under her excellent leadership, the organization has been very active in our community, both politically and academically. Whereas some of the Cobb NAACP's accomplishment under her guidance include the annual education forum, robust voter registration, informative political forums, and productive initiatives with local school, police, and civic organizations. The Afro Academic Cultural, Technological, and Scientific Olympics has also been implemented. And whereas, as a way to ensure continuous improvements in our school systems, Ms. Bonner oversaw the Cobb County NAACP's monitoring of city and county school systems as part of the ongoing civil rights suit with the Department of Education. Under her leadership, the organization also formed many beneficial partnerships with local churches and groups. And whereas Ms. Bonner stepped down from her position as president in 2018 and serves as president emeritus. She may be retired, but remains very active in helping Cobb NAACP plan their signature events, such as the annual Martin Luther King Day celebration with Cobb County government, the annual Juneteenth festival on the square, and the annual Freedom Fund banquet. And whereas Ms. Bonner and her husband of 65 years, Jesse, live in Marietta.
It's longer than 30.
I know.
That's a long time.
They have 2 children. Daughter Jareen is here, and 6 grandchildren and 6 great-grandchildren. Now, therefore, we, the Cobb County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim September 10th as Deanne Bonner Day in Cobb County in honor of her 86th birthday and her unwavering commitment to our community leadership and many years of service. This is the 28th day of September 2021. You want to say a few words?
Yes, of course. Please. Sydney, get up here. This is my granddaughter,
Yeah, Sydney.
who just graduated with honors from the beauty culture school. Next year she will have her own shop. And you know, when she said that me and Jesse had been married for 65 years, I know everybody in the room said, damn, that's a long time. Yeah, 60. Okay. Speak to the microphone. But I appreciate Cobb County. We've had a relationship Lisa know with Cobb County goes back to Bill Burns, and so to receive this honor this evening is just a culmination of the last 3 weeks where God have just blessed me to know that you don't always do things for recognition, but when people decide that you are worthy and have did at least something worthwhile, I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. Jesse and I have, when we come to Cobb County, a lot has changed. A lot has changed, but we're glad that we're here in Cobb County. We continue to stay. My daughter, Jareen, will continue to carry on some of the traditions of the NAACP. And I want to say to Lisa, during my tenure as the president of the NAACP, thank you for being in the struggle with us to do some of the things that we did, because we did it together. And as I stand here, I know that nobody does anything alone. You have to have people that are going to help you to make things happen. We appreciate the Cobb County government for helping us make Cobb County a better place for all of us to live. Thank you all for this great honor. I appreciate it.
Thank you for what you do.
All right, yeah, do the right side up.
The right side up.
All right, here we go. In 3, 2, 1. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Thank you all. I appreciate y'all. Y'all need to do it. You know, I know some of the stories that we made. Kelly, I would like to hear from you too.
We are now moving on to the public hearing portion of our agenda. Before we get started, I'm going to have our attorney just review our rules on decorum, which I thought was helpful during our planning and zoning hearing, and thought it would be great if he can reiterate it again before we get started with our public hearing. And don't forget, for those of you who are speaking, to please state your name when you come to the microphone.
Chairwoman, we first have our public hearing before we have our public comments.
Okay, thank you, appreciate that. Thank you. I'm going to back up a little bit and go to our public hearings. We actually have 2 public hearings today. The first public hearing is with respect to our Unified Development Code, and I'm going to ask Jessica Gwynn of Cobb Development if she can come forward.
Good evening, everyone.
Let's just wait one moment. Thank you.
Yes, good evening. Jessica Gwynn, Cobb County Community Development, and we've had some great dancing and a Harlem Globetrotter and birthday celebrations. I'm not sure I can hold a candle to any of that, but I'll do my best.
Okay,
as you'll recall, the board previously authorized staff to release a request for qualifications to initiate the procurement process for our Unified Development Code. In accordance with our county code, we are at this time requesting to hold a public hearing, given that we expect the contract for professional services to exceed $100,000. Here, I'm glad to answer any questions, and if not, then we would just ask the chair to please open the public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. For anyone who is here to speak to our Unified Development Code, you may please feel free to participate in this public hearing, which we will officially begin right now. For those also who are speaking during the public hearing, you have a total of 3 minutes for your comments. Yes, go ahead, Ron.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Ron Siphon. I have concerns about replacing our existing zoning code. Much of Cobb County is very suburban in character, and the vast majority of people who have chosen to live in Cobb suburbs have made that choice because they like the character of the suburban communities they have chosen. One of the reasons that our suburbs are so desirable is because their zoning code is designed to promote and protect the suburban lifestyle. While urbanists might have other preferences, our current zoning code does a great job of protecting the character of suburban communities. Over the last several weeks, I've repeatedly asked, what does Cobb County want to change about the zoning code? And all I get in response is that it's 50 years old and is therefore out of date. Our current zoning code has been kept rigorously up to date through the annual code amendment process, plus additional code amendments that come forward throughout the year. Our U.S. Constitution is more than 230 years old. We've amended it 27 times over the years, but we don't replace it because overall it's not broken, and neither is the Cobb County Zoning Code. In reality, there is nothing structurally wrong with our current zoning code that could not be fixed through the regular code amendment process. The only real reason to replace the current zoning code is to adopt a new code that is more hostile to suburban style development and is more suited to urbanizing the suburbs. I noticed, by the way, that the RFQ calls for protecting the little remaining rural portions of the county, but ominously avoids mentioning protecting suburban communities. And Cobb County has always distinguished between urban, suburban, and rural. So I would ask that you please stop this process now. And if you're going to insist on moving forward with this, please don't load the stakeholder committee with only developers and urbanists. True suburbanites who like the suburbs and live in the suburbs deserve representation in this process. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here who would like to speak to the Unified Development Code for Cobb County? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Christine Rosman. So Unified Development Code is, I believe, what Atlanta, City of Atlanta, and DeKalb County are doing. The Unified Development Code is not, we're not looking to transform Cobb County and to look like DeKalb. This is the reason why people move to Cobb County. If we wanted to live in DeKalb or in Fulton County, would move there. We don't want to look like it. We like our single-family suburban neighborhoods. We have good schools. We have low taxes. We want to maintain local control. We're not looking for that cookie-cutter plan that's pushed by the American Planners Association, United Nations Agenda 21 2030, and which is a failed policy, and with mixed-use development everywhere. So the citizens of Cobb County want to decide our development plans, not get influenced by like kind of keeping up with the Joneses or keeping up with Fulton County or DeKalb and be real hip and woke. And that's not who your constituents are. Your constituents wanted Cobb County for a reason. And it's also, we're not looking for smart cities, and which is kind of like that China thing where you have, you kind of know what kind of cars, or you're trying to get people away from their cars into trains and other kind of transportation, herd people into small apartments and high rises, and get surveil people 24/7, and that's kind of like that, what they do in China. It's for your social score if you're a good person, and that's not the look and feel of Cobb County, and that's not what we want. And there's a reason why we moved here, and it isn't congruent with this unified. I mean, it sounds good, it sounds real woke and cool, but it's not, and it's not what we want. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak to this matter? With that, the public hearing is closed, but I still would like to have our director come up and speak so she can provide some clarification as to what we are actually doing.
Yes, Chair, I'm glad to do that.
Thank you.
And, you know, as many on the board know, I'm also a lifelong resident of Cobb County and certainly appreciate all the wonderful things that we have here to offer. As you know, and as I've shared with you in the past, the Cobb County zoning code dates back about 50 years. So at this point, and to Mr. Siphon's point, we have conducted a number of amendments on the code, several Band-Aids. We also have the development standards, which is another document that partners with the zoning ordinance to guide development in the county. So what we're proposing now is at this point, given that it's been about 50 years, to take a fresh look at our codes. We're not saying let's scrap the whole thing, let's throw it out, let's change the trajectory of development in Cobb County, but let's look at it and make sure that what we have is fitting for the direction that Cobb County is headed. We have a lot of zoning districts that are obsolete at this point that we need to take another look at and see if maybe there's something we need to do with those. Also, the way that the code is now with the development standards is not particularly user-friendly for either our citizens, our businesses, or the folks who are trying to build and do business here in Cobb County. So that's what we're trying to achieve. Commissioner Burrell asked some great questions during the work session yesterday about how the public as well as the commissioners would have an opportunity to be involved in the process. And that's something that I want to be sure that everybody's clear on, is that there will be an extensive public involvement process through this. And one of the things that we'll be evaluating our consultant teams on as we're selecting the consultant is the public engagement program that they're proposing, because we recognize that's important. Cobb County is unique from a lot of counties in the metro area, and that we have just a really broad range of, you know, just character in the county. When you look at West Cobb versus the Battery, there's so much at stake here, and just the character varies across the county. So we want to be cognizant of that and be sensitive to that, and be sure that all of the citizens from all those areas have an opportunity to participate and be engaged in the process.
Thank you. I appreciate you providing that clarity. And I just want to let anyone know listening to public comment that the words spoken by those in public comment are those of the speaker, are not reflective of this board. And I just want to make sure if any offense was caused, as I felt a little offended by some of the statements that were made, that that is not a reflection of the board. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, I'm sorry, Commissioner. Thank you. All right, we have our next public hearing. It is to conduct a public hearing for employment of consultation services where contract fees will exceed $100,000 to conduct a classification and compensation study.
Good evening, Chairwoman, Commissioners.
Director.
Thank you. I'm Tony Hagler, the Human Resources Director for the county, and we ask that the board open a public hearing before we move forward with consultant services for conducting a classification and pay study for the county's pay system, and fees that are expected to exceed $100,000.
Thank you. For those who are here to speak to this particular item, this is for the classification and compensation study. You may participate in this public hearing for a maximum of 3 minutes. We will go ahead and open up the public hearing.
Thank you. Christine Rosman. So the proposed over $100,000 compensation study on tonight's agenda, one of the last studies cost the taxpayers $326,000, and there are many of us that oppose this study. This is why. Cobb did an employee compensation study and approved pay raise in 2018, 3 years ago. The pay raises were based on comparing Cobb to surrounding counties, which are not known for conservative fiscal practices. Those pay increases were estimated to total $8.3 million annually, according to the MDJ. I've not looked closely at the budget and the annual report, so let's go with that figure. It may be higher or lower, not sure. The commissioners approved yet another annual 3,000 merit increase for employees just a few weeks ago. Just for comparison's sake, let's look at the private sector and go back to 2019, just before we entered this strange pandemic time, about 2 years ago. U.S. salary budgets rose by an average of 3.1% in 2019. That is close to the merit increase Cobb has been awarded across the board. So now we're here again, 3 years later, after the pay increases of the previous study. The board's asking for another study, which will cost more than $100,000. It's important to consider other important advantages that Cobb employees have over private sector salaries, the compensation packages most Cobb taxpayers have. Cobb employees have better medical benefits than most private sector companies or employees. The vacation and accrual overtime accruals must be considered. Pensions, we suggest that you can obtain private sector information very easily without paying an outside firm to do this. And frankly, everybody that I know that works in the private sector has taken a pay decrease. That's not everybody, but I'm just saying a lot of people are taking pay decreases, not increases. So rather than play the game with surrounding county governments who create a potential scenario of keeping up with the Joneses, what is Fulton doing, what is DeKalb doing, let's take a look at the private sector, like I said, and save us over $100,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other additional speakers here for the public hearing? All right. Our public hearing is now closed. Thank you. We are now moving on to the public comment portion of our meeting. And again, I'll just ask our county attorney to please address decorum before we have our first speaker. For our speakers, you'll have a total of 5 minutes. Just ask that you share your name.
Thank you, Chairwoman.
Thank you.
There are 12 speakers, so we have 6 at the beginning of the meeting and then 6 at the end. As the board provides the podium for public comment this evening, it's good to review the meeting rules, which is, as the chairwoman said, to state your name and address, and if you're speaking on behalf of any organization, all comments should be addressed to the chair. Public comment is not a dialogue with the board, but rather an opportunity for the speaker to provide comment to the board. The comments should not be impertinent, derogatory, offensive, or slanderous. To that end, the board encourages, regardless of the topic, the audience to be respectful and courteous to the speakers. Everyone attending this meeting should give others the right to both listen and to be heard while treating each other with civility. And finally, there is a timer on the podium that tracks the 5 minutes of your time. With that, the first speaker is Mary Hauser.
Hello, my name is Dr. Mary Hauser. I live in Cobb County. So I've come to speak today about the discriminatory policy for Cobb County employees that only provides paid COVID leave for vaccinated individuals. A little bit of background about myself. I have a bachelor's in chemistry, a PhD in microbiology and immunology from Wake Forest University, and I've studied molecular virology of a number of different families and interaction of virus with the host. So today I would like to talk about something that's been left out of public health conversation, and that is protective immunity from natural exposure to the virus. So there is a plethora of literature on what happens after you're exposed to SARS-CoV-2, and you do mount an effective immune response after exposure. In an emerging infectious disease journal, all patients exposed to the virus showed presence of neutralizing antibodies following infection. Neutralizing antibodies persisted for months after those that were naturally exposed. SARS-CoV-2 infection induces long-lived bone marrow plasma cells in humans, and plasma cells are the ones that produce antibodies. Memory B cells against SARS-CoV-2 spike increased between 1 and 8 months following exposure. Now, I would like to remind the community that our adaptive immune response does not solely consist of antibodies, but also a very important arm of our immune system is called T cells. Particularly, CD8 killer T cells are critical for clearance of viral infection. So let's not forget about that very important arm of our immune system. More than 90% of infected patients had detectable CD4 and CD8 T cells 6 to 8 months following infection. These cells are specific to multiple parts of the virus and have multiple functions in your immune system and are critical for accelerated viral clearance and protection from severe disease. Patients who recovered from SARS-1, you may remember back in the early 2000s, we had an outbreak of SARS-1 that had a bit higher mortality rate and died out quickly as a result of that. Patients 17 years after exposure still maintain their T-cell immunity. Uninfected patients even showed cross-reactivity to SARS-CoV-2. All of this is available in the literature, and I would be happy to provide it to the board if interested. A very important publication showed that functional T cells and not antibody titers correlate with reduced disease severity. So another way to say this is those people that come down with very severe COVID have very high levels of antibodies, but they don't have high levels of functional T cells. Okay? A recent publication came out from Israel, and it showed that vaccinated people were 6 times more likely to get COVID than individuals who were previously infected. I quote, "This analysis demonstrated that natural immunity affords long-lasting and stronger protection against infection, symptomatic disease, and hospitalization due to the Delta variant." And the reason why natural immunity is so effective is because we generate that really critical CD8 T cell response. The vaccines have been focused solely on antibody responses. So why have we seen a reduced vaccine efficacy? Well, we have new variant strains that have accumulated mutations in the spike protein, and the vaccines afford immunity through blocking the spike protein. And as the virus accumulates mutations in that area, you have escape from the neutralizing capacity of that vaccine immunity. Combined with that, you have a decline of antibody levels in the vaccinated over time. A recent publication, and I quote, "Infectiousness protection starts diminishing for patients 2 months post-vaccination and ultimately vanishes."
Ma'am, I'm sorry, your time is up.
That's 5 minutes?
It's 5 minutes right there on the podium. Yes.
Okay, and I would just like to
Leroy Emkin is the next public
conclude
speaker.
about breakthrough infection.
Ma'am, I'm
Your
sorry,
time has run.
time is up.
Thank you.
Well, that was fast. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Just, excuse me, Mr. Emkin.
My name is Dr. Leroy Emkin. I
Give me
live in
one
Cobb
moment.
County.
I'm sorry, sir. My timer isn't working. Is your timer up there on your podium?
I can't see a timer.
Yeah,
I don't see, the timer's not working at all.
yeah, mine isn't either.
So can I take 10 minutes instead of 5?
Not today, but Bill, is yours running? I'm presuming.
Mine's running, it's 5 minutes. It's
Okay.
recorded.
When would you
There's
begin it?
nothing secret about it, so.
When would you begin the time?
When you start talking, sir.
Okay, I'd like to support what the previous, my PhD is in engineering, and I'm not stupid, and I can read documentation, I can understand others who are experts in the field of medicine. I'd like to put into the record a document that was written anonymously by clearly individuals who have deep understanding of these issues associated with COVID and the COVID issues. It's entitled The Spartacus COVID Letter. It begins with, "My name is Spartacus and I've had enough." 12 pages of extremely deep, penetrating descriptions of exactly what's going on with COVID and COVID-related issues. I recommend that all of you seek out the Spartacus COVID Letter, read it, and understand what's really going on. And the previous speaker touched on many of the issues. I'd like to read you just one paragraph that I read in this document that perhaps reinforces what the previous speaker said. It's in a subject, COVID-19 vaccine dangers. The vaccines for COVID-19 are not sterilizing and do not prevent infections or transmission. They are leaky, quote, leaky, unquote, vaccines. This means they remove the evolutionary pressure on the virus to become less lethal. It also means that the vaccinated are perfect carriers. In other words, those who are vaccinated are a threat to the unvaccinated, not the other way around. I'd like to submit this for the record, please. I'd like to also talk about a French professional tennis player, Jeremy Chardy. He is, at one time, he was ranked number 25 in the world in men's tennis, currently ranked number 73 in the world. This article says a tennis star has admitted he does not know when he will return to the sport and fears he may have to bring forward his retirement because of health problems he says he has suffered since taking the Pfizer COVID vaccine. World number 73, Jeremy Chardy, has become the latest tennis star to speak out against vaccines after experiencing what he describes as violent, near paralyzing pains across his body since taking the jab, warning that there is, quote, no hindsight, unquote, once people have received the treatment. The 34-year-old says that his priority is, quote, to take care of myself, unquote, after seeing 2 doctors and taking tests in a bid to deduce why he has found physical exertion so difficult since being vaccinated. Quote, suddenly I cannot train, I cannot play, unquote, the 2017 Davis Cup winner told a group, explaining that he received the jab between this summer's Olympics when he was beaten by gold medalist Alex Zverev. If you follow tennis, you know who he is, in the quarterfinals, and the U.S. Open that was just recently completed in New York. Jeremy Chardy says he suffered a severe reaction after getting his COVID-19 vaccine. Quote, I cannot practice, I cannot play, I start feeling a big pain on my entire body. I regret getting vaccinated, unquote. Who in his right mind will want to get vaccinated, knowing the truth about the side effects? There's another document entitled How the Spike Protein Hurts the Heart. And I'd like to just read some statistics. As of September 3rd, 2021, the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, VAERS, had received over 600,000 reports of adverse events following vaccination. Of these, there were over 14,000 deaths, over 6,000 heart attacks, and over 5,000 cases of pericarditis or myocarditis. It is important to note that the VAERS has tracked adverse events since 1990. In 2019, there were over 600 reports of deaths from all vaccines given in 2019. In 2021, there were 14,594 deaths reported in 9 months. What happened in 2021 that didn't happen in 2019? Vaccinations, ladies and gentlemen. Although these numbers are significant, a 2020 Harvard study commissioned by the Department of Health and Human Services revealed data demonstrating the VAERS likely only represents approximately 1% of those who are injured. So far more than these tens of thousands of people.
Mr. Emkin, your time's up.
I will never take the vaccine.
Kelly Markham.
Good job on the name. Hi, good evening. My name is Kelly Markham, Cobb County resident. I'm also here today to express my personal grave concerns regarding the new paid leave policy, bribing employees to get vaccinated by offering up to 80 hours paid leave to vaccinated employees only. We support the comments made by Commissioner Gambrill. I quote, Commissioner Gambrill said, "I find it ironic that we're going to be hiring a diversity, equity, and inclusion director to make sure that everyone feels like they're fairly represented in the county. Yet we're making a policy to segregate people out based on personal choice that they made for their health," she told the MDJ. County Manager Dr. Jackie McMorris stated that the $750,000 would come from the American Rescue Plan Act funds. Does the county seem to think that's magic money? That's money that comes from we the people, the taxpayers. I strongly oppose us spending the tax dollars to do these things, to create two classes of county employees. Secondly, to bribe or coerce sovereign human beings to take experimental, unapproved medical concoctions into their bodies, coercing them into making that decision that when they cannot possibly have informed consent. It is impossible to know all the harm that these experimental shots may cause over the next months or years down the road. These experimental shots have not undergone proper animal testing. People who take these shots are parts of clinical trials. Go to clinicaltrials.gov to see for yourself. We do know also about the CDC's own reporting system, VAERS. I won't repeat the statistics that were previously stated. I'm in agreement with those and support those. Those are out there for your verification as well. The Helsinki Agreement and the Nuremberg Code state that what you are doing is against international codes. This is but a portion of that code that you are breaking. The voluntary consent of the human subject is absolutely essential. This means that the person involved should have legal capacity to give consent, should be so situated as to be able to exercise free power of choice, reaching without the intervention of any element of force, fraud, deceit, duress, overreaching, or any other ulterior form of constraint or coercion, and should have sufficient knowledge and the comprehension of the elements of the subject matter involved as to enable him to make an understanding and enlightened decision. You cannot say that you have not been informed. There are so many untruths in what Chairwoman Cupid and County Manager Dr. McMorris stated in the MDJ article that we wouldn't have time to go over. Thousands of doctors would refute, and scientists would refute what they're saying regarding the vaccinated versus the unvaccinated, and have issued warnings not to take these experimental shots. You're not taking into consideration, again, what this doctor previously was stating about natural immunity. It's roughly 13 times or more effective than these so-called vaccines. I ask you to please reconsider this divisive decision that is potentially dangerous to those encouraged to take these experimental shots. They are proven not to stop COVID. They are proven not to prevent the transmission of COVID. Look at the Israel study. Please withdraw this bribe and divisive policy to spend our taxpayer dollars on something against international laws and codes. It probably also goes against equal employment opportunity and civil rights laws as well. We want no part of this. It's a very dangerous and slippery slope when government overreaches into personal medical decisions. At the end of the day, you are functioning in a government, in an elected role within a government structured, built upon biblical principles, wherein you are accountable to serve we, all the people. More importantly, you will account to God one day. His justice will prevail upon the decisions you make here. Do you want to be held even partially responsible for human injury or possibly even death? I pray you will listen to your constituents and follow the rules of law. Thank you for your time.
Brooke Schultz.
Good evening. My name is Brooke Schultz. I'm a Cobb County resident and have been for the last 7 years. I have a master's in public health. I spent 15 years in pharma, 11 years of which were with Pfizer Pharmaceuticals. I launched several drugs to market, represented drugs that were also removed from the market. I currently work in the med device industry and medication management solutions for a large med device manufacturer. Pretty much all of my career has been spent in or around medications and healthcare delivery. I spent the day-to-day reviewing my company's newly announced mandate for the experimental COVID-19 vaccines. They're offering a medical or religious exemption. The most amazing thing about this is we have now moved into the world where the corporations are violating the law. Let's start with the supreme law of the land, the United States Constitution. We have protections under the First Amendment, and that guarantees our freedom to express our religion. The Fourth Amendment, our right to privacy and private property. Our body is our private property. Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, U.S. Code 2000E, prohibits discrimination against a sincerely held religious belief, practice, or observance. My company is qualifying my religion. It's disgusting. I don't recognize my country. Government's primary responsibility is to secure our rights, and yet from this level all the way up to the President of the United States, governments are committing unlawful acts against the American people. In your case, the unlawful behavior is discrimination against Cobb employees who choose not to receive an experimental vaccine and believing you have the authority to enforce mask mandates. Let me review the most recent summary of adverse events of the COVID-19 experimental gene therapy. To date, there have been 726,000 reports of adverse events. They include 86,000 hospitalizations, 82,000 urgent care reports, 8,600 cases of Bell's palsy, over 7,000 heart attacks, 20,000 permanently disabled, and 15,000 dead. The CDC will have you believe these numbers are erroneous when their own website actually states, quote, "Underreporting is one of the main limitations of passive surveillance systems, including VAERS." Harvard did a study on reporting of adverse events in vaccines and found that it was 1% to 10% was actually captured. That means you can put 1 0 or 2 zeros on the back end of these numbers. We are living in a world where the truth is ignored and glossed over, and where big pharma and government agencies are being regarded as benevolent deliverers of health. These are the same institutions that have poisoned, killed, and infected millions in our history. When I was working for Pfizer in 2005, the FDA asked us to remove Bextra from the market after full FDA approval had been on the market for 4 years. They said, here's what the press release said: concerns about 2 studies showing increased cardiovascular risk. You think you can't draw that from the VAERS data? Lack of long-term data on the cardiovascular safety. You could say the same thing about the COVID vaccines. Life-threatening skin reactions. Same thing. No deaths were actually attributed in the reason to remove. So there was not a single death. We continue to hear we have to follow the science and look at the data, and yet the data is already telling us something. The prevalence of vascular and neurological side effects are telling us these vaccines have serious adverse reactions associated with them, with the most serious one being death. This is just one of the many stories that are alarming. There are drug after drug and even vaccines that have been removed from the market for less than 25 deaths. Think for one moment. Don't you think we can ascertain that at least 25 of the 15,000, irrespective of the 700,000, are directly related to the COVID vaccine? We used to live in a country where that was too many. And yet we have a media and a culture that says, oh, it's 0.001%. It's okay. It's not okay. I would like to present, in closing, an open-ended question to the commissioners, as it will be an open records request from me. Are you in possession or slated to receive any federal or private funding or grants or any entity under the condition of universal masking, vaccination, and/or COVID-related policies? Have you, to date, received or set to receive COVID-related dollars that are tied to your policies? Thank you.
Sabrina Mao.
I'm Sabrina Mao. I'm a Cobb resident. I'm here to talk tonight to talk to you about the hidden taxes that we taxpayers are forced to pay because of poor decisions by the Board of Commissioners. Granted, some of these decisions were made before you came to the scene. We are here to make you aware of some of those decisions that you will not continue to go on that road. Transfers from water fund are but one of these areas that negatively impact taxpayers. The millage rate at home and home value are additional hidden taxes. These water transfers have been going on since the 1990s. At one point, such transfers were a threat to our pristine AAA bond rating. Commissioners made transfers from the water fund illegally. This is a quote from AJC, which did an investigation on the topic dated December 5th, 2010. The county had issued bonds in previous years that prohibited the county from using water system money for anything but water and sewer services. Despite those restrictions, the county moved both the solid waste and stormwater management decisions into the water system. That theoretically gave officials access to the water system's money to help pay the bills. Since those moves, at least $158 million in water systems money has gone toward those expenses as of 2010. Mr. Bryce, who has headed the water system from 1994 to 2007, stated those moves were inappropriate. In 2005, the loan money started getting paid back, but it's repayment with the water system's own money. Cobb paid back $9.4 million of the debt without interest before writing it off the remaining $17.9 million in 2009. Bryce stated, anytime you have anticipated income that you don't get, you have to make it up somewhere else. We made up through rate increases. Instead, because that money went down other bills, the water system had to take out more and more loans. Now the system won't pay off its current debt until 2029. This Board of Commissioners in this month's meeting voted for water rate increase of 11%. Taxpayers' water rate will jump 11% beginning January 1st. You see, the commissioners continue to transfer money from the water fund to the general fund at a rate of 8%. As was stated earlier, the money then has to come from the taxpayers with a rate of increase. As was stated earlier, the money then, to her credit, Commissioner Joanne Burrell continues to state that she wants to see zero transfers, but we certainly are not close to that. As members of the board often state, where do we stop kicking the can down the road? Instead, Chairwoman Cubitt is proposing things like employee incentive and citizen incentive or coerced to take potential dangerous, unproven, experimental, ineffective, toxic COVID shots. Chairwoman Cubitt and County Manager McMorris blithely state that such things will be paid for with the American Care Act funds. Those are taxpayers' dollars too. You will also vote on whether you will spend
Ms.
more
Mao,
of our tax dollars.
Ms. Mao, I'm sorry, your time's up.
Please vote no for any of these things.
Mary Curzoli.
Good evening. My name is Mary Carzoli. I'm a Cobb County resident. We're going to play a 5-minute video for my instead of me speaking, to show you a video from Dr. Vladimir Zelenko, a board-certified family practitioner who has treated 7,000 at-risk patients recover from COVID, and many presidents all over the world have been treated by him also. So here it goes.
I receive daily death threats. I risk my life, my career, my financial life, my reputation, almost my family, everything, just to sit here and tell you what I'm telling. Dr. Luc Montagnier, who won the Nobel Prize in Medicine for the discovery of HIV, said that this is the biggest risk to humanity and the biggest risk of genocide in the history of humanity. If we follow the advice of some of the quote-unquote global leaders, let's say like Bill Gates said last year, 7 billion people need to be vaccinated, the death rate will be over 2 billion people. So wake up. This is World War III. This is a level of malfeasance and malevolence that we have not seen probably in the history of humanity. My team has directly treated successfully 6,000 patients. I've trained hundreds of physicians who are now training their students, and as a cumulative group, we've treated millions of patients successfully. President Trump was my patient, Rudy Giuliani was my patient, Reb Chaim Kanevsky has been my patient, Mr. Litzman, your health minister of Israel last year, was my patient. I'm just telling you which people have contacted me for care, including President Bolsonaro of Brazil. Now, my experience has given me a very unique perspective in approaching COVID-19, which is basically keeping people out of the hospital. Regarding children, the only reason you would want to treat a child is if you believe in child sacrifice. Let me explain. Anytime you evaluate any therapeutic, you need to look at it from 3 perspectives. Is it safe? Does it work? And do you need it? Just because you have a capability doesn't mean that you have to use it. There has to be a medical necessity. There has to be a need for it. If you look at the CDC, the statistics for children under the age of 18 that are healthy, the survival rate is 99.998% survival rate with no treatment. Just like Dr. Yudin said, the influenza virus is more dangerous to children than COVID-19, and he made an estimate that per million, 100 children would die from the vaccination. I feel the number would be significantly higher and I'll explain to you the rationale for it. If you have a demographic that has no risk of dying from an illness, why would you inject them with a poison death shot? Now, let's see if this thing works. The 2 countries in the world that are most vaccinated its citizens is Israel, a high, like 85% rate of vaccination, and an island nation in the Indian Ocean called Seychelles, also over 80%. Both countries are experiencing a Delta variant outbreak. So let me ask you a question. If you vaccinated the majority of your population, why are you still having an outbreak? That's number one. Number two, why would you even give a 3rd shot of the same stuff that didn't work the first 2 times? All right, that's whether or not it works.
The 5 minutes is expired.
Let's talk about safety. Now, this is a real issue.
Chairwoman, that concludes the first portion of our public speaking.
All right. Commissioners, we have an item to add to our agenda. It's a non-agenda item pertaining to an authorization for settlement of Cobb County versus WA87 Forest Ridge LLC. May I get a motion for us to add that to the agenda?
So moved.
Second. Is there any discussion? All right, we'll call the question. Okay, that matter is added to the consent agenda. For those who have been here before the meeting, the items on our consent agenda have scrolled. Our commissioners will be voting on the consent agenda in bank as revised. I move that we approve the items on the consent agenda as revised and authorize execution of the necessary documents by the appropriate county personnel.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All right, we'll call the question. The motion carries 5-0. Thank you, commissioners. We will now move to the regular portion of our agenda. The first item is to approve emergency funding for rental housing relief. We'll have that presented by our Deputy County Attorney, Debbie Blair.
Good evening, Debbie Blair with the County Attorney's Office. I'm here to present item 29. Congress approved as part of the American Rescue Plan Act a second emergency rental assistance program to be used for rental and or utility assistance to qualified households. While Cobb received this first tranche of funding, ERA2 funding, in May, it did not immediately allocate this funding in order to ensure that at least 65% of ERA1 was obligated on or before September 30th. This was required to prevent recapture by the Treasury of any unused ERA1 funding. As of September 8th, 67% of our ERA1 funds have been obligated. Because at least one of the service providers has fully allocated its ERA1 funds and 2 others are getting close, it is requested that ERA2 be allocated now equally to the same service providers who are currently distributing ERA1. The application process will remain the same as currently utilized for ERA1. ERA1 and 2 will be available to be expended contemporaneously. In order to ensure that the distribution of ERA1 funds continues, service providers agree to review applications for COVID hardships and utilize ERA1 funding before accessing ERA2 funding. Also, as part of this agenda item is a fee for grant management oversight to W. Frank Newton, Inc. It is requested that this agenda item be approved as presented. If there's any questions.
All right, Move that we approve the agenda item as presented.
Second.
Is there any discussion or any questions? All right, we'll call the question. The motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Attorney Blair.
Thank you.
We are now moving on to our transportation tab. We have our DOT director. Didn't expect to see you this evening.
Good evening, Chairwoman,
Good evening.
Commissioners, County Manager. As you mentioned, DOT has 7 items for review this evening. Our first is to recommend the Board of Commissioners authorize advertisement for and conduct of a public hearing prior to expending $100,000 or more to perform engineering design services for various projects in the 2016 SPLOST Transportation Improvements Program, and further authorize the issuance of requests for proposals or task orders to secure required services as shown on the attached list of upcoming projects for the second half of 2021.
All right, Commissioner Gambrill.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Call the question. The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Our next item is to recommend the Board of Commissioners approve a consultant services agreement with Parsons Transportation Group Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $400,000 for transportation planning and engineering services on Cobb Parkway at Windy Hill Road grade separation scoping study, project number X2540, and authorize the corresponding budget transactions.
All right, Commissioner Richardson.
So moved.
Any discussion? I'll call the question. The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Our next item is to recommend the Board of Commissioners approve change order number 1 to the contract with Glosson Enterprises LLC, a savings to the project in the amount of $103,485 for sidewalk construction on Hickory Grove Place, project number X2749. Approve supplemental agreement number 1 to the contract in amount not to exceed $126,490, resulting in a net increase to the project in amount not to exceed $23,005. And approve a contract time extension through December 31st, 2021.
Commissioner Burrow.
Thank you. I would first like to thank DOT and the citizens in this area, Wade Green area, for their patience with this. We ran into a little situation with the water system and had to delay the project. So thank you for all your hard work, and I appreciate the patience of the citizens. So motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? I'll call the question. The motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, and thank you, Commissioner. We also wanted to thank Water System for their assistance in helping to resolve those matters. Our next item is to recommend the Board of Commissioners approve a contract with Advanced Sports Construction LLC in an amount not to exceed $169,939 for drainage system repairs on Jane Drive, project number D2852, and authorize the corresponding budget transactions.
Commissioner Sheffield.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question. The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Next item is to recommend the Board of Commissioners approve a contract with Butch Thompson Enterprises Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $223,884 for drainage system repairs on Timber Creek Lane, project number X22108, and authorize the corresponding budget transactions.
Commissioner Sheffield.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Call the question. The motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Our next item is to recommend the Board of Commissioners approve a contract with Chatfield Contracting Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $311,672 for drainage system repairs on Starcrest Lane, project number X22110, and authorize the corresponding budget transactions.
Commissioner Burrow.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? I'll call the question. The motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. And our final item tonight is to recommend the Board of Commissioners ratify previous action by the county manager authorizing emergency repairs on Wanda Circle in response to a sinkhole. Approve project number D2856 to the 2021 countywide unit price contract with Chatfield Contracting Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $165,866 for said repairs, and authorize the corresponding budget transactions.
Commissioner Sheffield.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Call the question. The motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Drew. Before we go to our next public comment, I want to recognize the young man who we have here in the audience today. His name is Krishiv Sharma. He is a participant of our inaugural class of our Youth Commission, and we thank you for joining us today after the program this weekend to learn more about what we do in the Board of Commissioners. Thank you. All right, Bill, we'll have our second. Yes, thank you. Encourage our young people to get involved.
The concluding speakers, the first one is Mr. Hugh Norris.
Good evening, Commissioners. Hugh Norris here. I'm a 25-year resident of Cobb County. I choose to use my time tonight to, again, highlight Dr. Vladimir Zelenko, who we saw earlier. He is up for a Nobel Peace Prize related to his efforts on the COVID pandemic. He is a household name around the world for those folks who are educated and knowledgeable and are serious about following this whole mess that we've been living in for the last months, many months. One comment, and I'm going to paraphrase here, Dr. Zelenko made on a podcast that was heard around the world. I'm paraphrasing now. And he is an expert in therapeutics to deal with the COVID, to keep people out of the hospital, keep them off the ventilators, keep them alive. Here was his comment, I'm paraphrasing. He said, any public officials, health authorities, et cetera, who get in the way of patients having access to therapeutics, meaning ivermectin, meaning hydrochloroquine, et cetera, any of those officials who get in the way of that are committing crimes against humanity and are mass murderers. And I ask you, Commissioners, to look in the mirror. Do we have any such officials here in Cobb County that Dr. Zelenko would consider mass murderers and committing crimes against humanity? Please play the video.
Safety or death that we need to look at. One is acute, one is subacute, and long-term. Acute, I'll define from the moment of injection till 3 months. The number one risk of the shot is blood clots, just like Dr. Eden said, according to the Salk Institute. By the way, everything I'm saying, I will defend with documentation, and please don't take my word for it. You should do your due diligence. And I can provide to you proof for everything that I'm saying. According to the Salk Institute, when a person gets an injection of these vaccines, quote unquote, the body becomes a spike-producing factory, making trillions of spikes, which migrate to the endothelium, which is the inner lining of your blood vessels. And it's basically little thorns on the inside of your vasculature. As the blood cells flow through it, they get damaged, they cause blood clots. If that happens in the heart, it's a heart attack. If that happens in the brain, that's a stroke. So we're seeing the number one cause of death in the short term is from blood clots, and most of it is happening within the first 3-4 days. 40% is happening within the first 3 days of injection of this poison death shot. Now, the other problem is that it's causing myocarditis or inflammation in the hearts of children, and young adults, in the hearts of young adults. And the third problem, which is the most disturbing, is according to the New England Journal of Medicine article, their preliminary data, the miscarriage rate in the first trimester, woman gets vaccinated in the first trimester goes from 10% to 80%. I want you to understand what I just said. The miscarriage rate in the first trimester of pregnant women, when they get vaccinated, goes up by a factor of 8. That's preliminary data. It may change with time, but I'm just telling you what it is as of today. That's the smallest of the problem. The second problem is the subacute death issue, which is the following, that the animal studies that were done with these vaccines showed that all the animals responded well in generating antibodies. When they were challenged, however, with the virus that they were immunized against, a large percentage of them died. And when that was investigated, it was found that their immune system had killed them. It's called something antibody-dependent enhancement, or pathogenic priming, or paradoxical immune enhancement. But the point is that a lot of those animals died. So you can make an argument, maybe human beings are different. My answer to you, maybe. However, those studies were not done. You are the study right now. The Pfizer CEO said Israel is the biggest laboratory in the world. And so those long-term studies to rule out, Dr. Luke Montague
Time's up.
won the Nobel Prize.
The next speaker is Monica Delancey.
Good evening, Monica Delancey, Riverside Community, 15-year resident. 15-year resident living in Cobb County, earning over 18 awards from residing in Cobb County. Some of the awards being an MLK, NAACP honoree. Also was honored by the Omega Psi Phi for a community organizer. In addition, PTA, Parent Teacher Association leader. All of this done, I'm being honored for continuous work and volunteering in the community, and also raising my 2 children at the same time. In addition, starting Rethrive and Riverside Rental Association from the ground up. I just wanted to share some things. I just wanted to make sure to speak and let the record speak how hardworking, not only myself, but my daughter, as well as my son in the community. This year, I was blessed with some funds from to be able to not only assist Rethrive and Riverside Rental Association with advocacy work, but also bless others with rental assistance. From there, I believe I have my report. And the reason I'm giving you this report, because I know I emailed it, but I want to go on record that I provided this report to you, that out of the Oprah Winfrey grant, that was, Sting Inc. was the fiscal agent, we were able to provide 47 people with $1,000 rental assistance, and those funds were dispersed by March. And then also, we had some soft donations that came in to support the Thriving Family Leadership Project. Some of those donations that came in was because I did have a lawsuit for my wrongful eviction, and I used that settlement to support the Thriving Families Initiative. And the reason why I wanted to do that was because I know as a mother, and I've been was told to go to meetings, go to workshops. I was not providing any types of incentives to go to meetings. Sometimes I would go to meetings and not even have gas money. And I would go to meetings, this was before Uber or Lyft, I was taking cabs, right? But I knew the importance of being there. And I knew that if I was there attending Cobb County School Board meetings, attending Board of Commissioners meetings, attending civic meetings in the community, I can bring back resources that's valuable. So I knew when I wanted to do the Thriving Families Leadership Project, I knew that I wanted to provide incentives for people to go and be leaders in the community. And I'm gonna make no apology for it. And I'm glad I was able to do it. In the report, you will see that from the Thriving Families Project, 8 people completed, graduated. They received $11,000 combined in incentives, and the last final payment that would be paid to the apartment complex or to another financial institution they're choosing would be paid this week, but it would be paid after they complete their exit interviews, because the board wanted a fair summary or report of how effective the Thriving Family Leadership Project was and will continue to be. And from the report, you will see that one of the thrivers stated that while she was in the program, one of her concerns was being promoted on her job. And she was promoted on her job while in the program. Another one of her goals were buying a house. And she says that she's in the stage of completing that, of purchasing a house within the next year. But then also, the thrivers were able to provide some benefits of the program and opportunities for improvement. And the benefits, which was consensual from all the thrivers, stated that they liked the fact to be able to meet others, connect with people, be able to attend this meeting, like this young man's attending this meeting tonight, being able to use their voice, okay? And also they stated some opportunities of improvement will be for We Thrive to hire staff, because we're volunteers. Hire staff, maybe include a therapist, a life coach, also a person that could work with them in their resumes. Those are opportunities of improvement. Also, they stated, well, you know, if you change dates, even though you might have changed the date to benefit them because they received half of their first payment early, they said, well, just, you know, don't even worry about changing dates, because even though it was a benefit, now that was a delay, they saw it as an issue. And the last thing they said, get everything in writing. So those were lessons learned, right? So we have the benefits and lessons learned, and I'm glad I was able to do the program. I'm glad that we'll continue to do it. And so the last thing I want to say that this week, Brianna will be leading a youth leadership summit at Kingsley Village Apartments. There are 10 youths that signed up. They will attend a workshop on Thursday. And then on Friday, they would go on a field trip, and they'll come to the Marriott Square. We're going to visit all the government buildings on the Marriott Square. And Brianna will lead that. Thank you very much, and stay thriving. Thank you.
Christine Rosman.
Hello, Christine Rosman again, Cobb County, City of Marietta. I think we've had some really good information tonight that will make people pause and ponder, and I hope it does. I know that on Friday there's at the State Fair over at Jim Miller Park, they're offering free vaccines for people so that if they get a vaccine, they get in for free. And I just feel like it's coercion, but, you know, people still have a choice. They're still at choice at the moment. You know, this country's at a really critical time. I think they're averaging like 200,000 illegals coming over the southern border per month. And they are I've brought this up before. I'm not seeing it, but I know that it is happening, and they're being dropped off in all places, including Georgia. I'm sure Cobb County is included in that. And then what's weird is that also the Afghans that are coming in, and then they are getting dropped off by the hundreds, if I'm not mistaken, in South Atlanta. That probably will come up to Cobb County too. But what's really weird is that we've had so much of like, oh, COVID, 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 get your shot, wear your mask. We have all these people coming over that are unvetted. We don't know if they're terrorists. We don't know who they are, what they are. There are a lot of bad characters that are coming over, most likely are going to be around us in the very near future. And, but they don't have to get tested. They don't have to get home tested. They don't have to get vaccinated. And we do. And there's all these pressures on all of us. And And here you have these illegals that are coming over and they have more freedoms than we do. So when I say we're at a critical time, we really are at a critical time in this country, in this county. And, I guess, what are we doing to prepare for it? Because I know that there's a lot of things that spending money on. It's going to impact us, and it is going to cost us money. So I guess that's what the general fund is for. And please don't confuse my passion for my country, for my freedom, with being disrespectful to you, because that's not about disrespect. It is about taking a stand for this country, because we're seeing all these cities that are just being demolished with crazy behavior and what is happening with our country. And I was with the Elder Abuse Task Force. It kills me. It kills me that we have the man in office, in the highest office, with clear cognitive impairment, and here we are acting like everything's fine, So what's going to happen with other people that say, hey, I have a neighbor that's kind of in that cognitive, impairment state. I can take him down to the bank, get on his checking account. So I'm just saying there's so many weird things. I think that everybody knows there's really weird things going on that don't make any sense. A friend of mine, she's not in Cobb County, she voiced her opinion at her city council meeting. She did a couple of ORRs. She had a visit from a huge SWAT team at her house at 4 o'clock in the morning, banging on her front door, back door, side windows. She was terrorized. She calls up 911. What's your address? Yeah, they're there to see you. So that's what intimidation looks like when you start questioning your city council. I don't want that for Cobb County. We aren't those other, we're a good county. Let's keep it that way. And give us the freedoms to be able to ask questions. That's part of our Constitution. We get to ask questions. Thank you.
The next speaker is John Gargis.
Good evening, Commissioners. John Gargis, longtime listener, first-time caller. I came here representing myself to speak tonight to focus on two things: public comment and representation. On the first topic, I want to applaud the Commissioners for pulling back a proposed reduction of public comment time. But at the same time, I understand some very solid reasons for considering it. This Cobb County government and the Board of Commissioners has responsibly reserved time at multiple meetings during this pandemic to have Cobb and Douglas Public Health present a nearly real-time snapshot of the impact of COVID-19. But it boggled my mind during multiple meetings this summer to hear, following these presentations, and even tonight, citizens spout off conspiracy theory after conspiracy theory regarding COVID-19 and the life-saving vaccines that have prevented additional cases and, or at the very least, softened the blow of breakthrough cases as we continue through this Delta variant. Anonymous letters? What evidence is that? I wish, in just one of these presentations this summer, there was a video shown featuring a doctor who has claimed medicines were made using alien DNA. Don't know where these aliens came from. And that scientists were trying to create a vaccine to make you immune from becoming religious. Only slightly more crazy than another narrative that COVID-19 vaccines violate the 1947 Nuremberg Code, and that those pushing and administering COVID vaccines are war criminals. That code addresses experimentation on unwilling individuals, not vaccines. And I wish vaccine misinformation was it, but no. Some folks also want to use these public meetings, supported by a number of county-paid employees and broadcast in multiple ways by taxpayer-funded technology, to make other outlandish claims, such as that our presidential election was rigged. I hope viewers can identify any of these ridiculous and outlandish remarks as quickly as they are made. But the oxygen and airtime given to them is even more a travesty when many of our own elected officials aren't given a fraction of the same time to ask questions or propose ways to improve our county. I'm speaking now, Commissioners, of the Cobb County School Board, which has all but silenced 3 of its 7 board members, representing nearly 43% of this county's population, or more than 328,000 residents per the 2020 census. None of the school board's 3 Democrats were allowed to question on Thursday the district's COVID-19 data presented by the superintendent. And none of them can currently propose any action item regarding this pandemic or any other topic unless they already have 4 votes to support it. I want to contrast this with the leadership style of the Cobb Board of Commissioners' former chairman, Mike Boyce. In a previous life, I was a reporter and covered the Boyce administration for 2.5 years. Mike at least once shared with me an informal commitment he had made to his 4 other commissioners. Now, to put an item on the commission agenda, it always required at least 2 of the 5 commissioners backing it. But if any one commissioner wanted to propose a measure for consideration, Mike would be the second commissioner and allow it to be considered, even if he ultimately might not vote in favor of it. So Mike would allow a proposal from just one commissioner representing 1/4 of the county to have their idea come up for a vote. A representative of 25% of the county versus 43% of the county not getting their elected representatives to have their say in school district matters. And yet the school board's current 4-3 Republican edge could still squash any Democratic proposal made. I'll also add that these 3 Democratic school board members are likely aligned with more than half of the county's voting public. Cobb went blue in the last 2 presidential elections and flipped the county's legislative delegation to a Democratic majority. Cobb School Board may retain its Republican edge by virtue of staggered board elections or perhaps favorably drawn districts. Now, to this Board of Commissioners, I urge that you ask your peers on the Cobb School Board to allow all of its members the chance to serve the districts they represent, and to follow the examples that your board has set by allowing proposals from the minority and comments from individual board members. Thank you.
William Burns. William Burns. Oh, I'm sorry.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Bill Burns, and I live in Marietta on Blaylock Drive. The morning of Wednesday the 7th, I woke up at 1:30 in the morning. We were having a severe thunderstorm and lightning storm. And I looked at my phone where I have my cameras on my property. I have a camera inside of one of my outbuildings where I keep my tractor, and the camera was showing my refrigerator in that outbuilding floating on top of 5 feet of water. My tractor was completely submerged. So I went outside and I took a picture of the floodwaters that were coming down across the lower acre of my property. There was 5 feet of water rapidly flowing across my property, and it picked up my 14-foot utility trailer, dropped it against the shed, and about 2 hours after the rain stopped, all the water was gone. So it seems clear to me that the drainage system that is in there is not adequate to handle the water that was flowing at that particular time. Like I said, as soon as the water stopped, the rain stopped, the water was dissipated very quickly. That flood also flooded Blaylock Drive, or Barnes Mill Road, and it also took out the entrance to the East Lake apartment complex. The pictures that I took show that the water also came up to the bottom of the decks of my 2 neighbors behind me, and also damaged the interior of one of the residents in the neighborhood behind me. I know because I cleaned this shed out and have done a lot of repairs to that shed in order to be able to use it as a tractor shed. I did a lot of work on that shed. I spent a lot of money in repairing that shed. And I know that it was flooded before in 2006, and the storm drain system that is in there was put in by the county in '06 as a result of that flood. I have two concerns. One, is the county able to compensate me or the other residents for the damages that were done because that storm drain system is not adequate? And two, will there be anything done to remediate the situation so that it does not happen again? Thank you.
Iris Odom.
Hello, I'm Iris Odom, and I'm a resident of Cobb County for 35 years, and I'm a retired teacher for Cobb County. I am also Bill Burns' neighbor. That our backyard looked like a lake. I have pictures here. I don't know if I can show them, but this is my property in the back. And that's, that's where the water lines got up on my property, which my crawl space is under there that has my HVAC unit, all of that, my furnace, and that was all, I had to replace it, which is over $9,000, and my neighbors across the street, their cost is much more. That also is the back of Mr. Burns' yard. Oh, that's the same thing. I just blew it up. And that's the shed that he's talking about. The water even came up past my house, and that's the front of my garage. This is up under the house once it went down. And then this is that one. So from these pictures, you can actually see the existing storm drains are not capable of handling this. So what was once wooded areas that absorbed the waters and trees are now new homes that are creating hard soil and excessive runoffs from the roofs and concrete driveways. There's also work being done on Barnes Mill, and sewers are being put in, but that Barnes Mill Road looked like a lake. So my concern is the storm drains need to be upgraded and maintained. With building permits being given and all of that water running into our subdivision, it just can't handle it. So what I'm asking is for you guys to upgrade it. I guess when you give building permits, kind of review where all of this water is coming from. And because clearly it's running, that new subdivision they built is all flowing into our system. So.
Thank you. Commissioners, typically we do not respond after public comment, but I have had a request that you can leave your address if it has not been left on the sign-in sheet. I understand the address or the road that you provided is near 2 commission districts, so it's not clear which commissioner will reach out to you directly until they can actually query your address and see which district you fall in.
I think it's Mrs. Joanne Burrell.
Okay. Okay, you said you left it on the sign-in sheet. Sir,
I left it on the sign-in sheet.
Did you leave yours on the sign-in sheet as well? Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you. Bill, you can go ahead. You're welcome, thank you.
That concludes the speakers for this evening.
Thank you. All right, we have two appointments to make. The first one is in Commission District 1, Commissioner Gambrell.
Yes, I'd like to announce the reappointment of Richard Rubio to the Neighborhood Safety Commission.
Thank you, Commissioner. Also, I move that we approve the appointment of Irene Barton to the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities Advisory Council.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question. The motion passes 5-0. Thank you. With that, we are approaching Commissioner's public address. We will go ahead and begin with Commission District 1.
And before we go to the slideshow, I have a comment regarding agenda number 4. The chair took the liberty to make a comment, but when I asked to make a comment, I was denied that opportunity. I do have several questions for our Director of Community Development. I know she has left for the night. But one, if development standards are standards that are across all areas of development, why do we need to look at reviewing our development standards and changing them? Secondly, have we directed staff to look at the zoning code? We've got 4 new cities that are looking to become a potential reality next year with a vote in 2022, which would then put zoning under their own control. So my question is have we directed staff to go through and make the changes necessary to the code to fix the irregularities, the conflicts, and such? So those would be my questions that I'd like answered. So with that, I'd like to go to thank you. Keeping Our Community Beautiful, last Saturday, Walking with a Purpose Civic Association, which is part of the Adopt a Mile program with Keep Cobb Beautiful, picked up trash from both sides of Ernest Barrett Parkway from Burnt Hickory Road to Old Highway 41. Thanks to Officer Justice for showing up and our DOT crew for retrieving the full bags of trash. The next Walking with a Purpose cleanup will be Saturday, October 23rd. Our West Cobb Regional Library's Fall 2021 Must Ministries food drive is currently underway. The library is accepting donations for Must Ministries. Non-perishable food items are accepted during regular library hours. For information on Must food drives and the most needed items, you can visit mustministries.org. You can join me this Thursday for our E911 Town Hall at the West Cobb Senior Center. You can learn how to get 911 updates and helpful tips regarding tornado warnings, flash flood warnings, winter storm warnings, and winter storm advisories. We will hear from our 911 Director, Melissa Altero, and also our Emergency Management Agency Director, Cassie Masloom. Again, it's this Thursday at the West Cobb Senior Center, which is on Dallas Highway from 6 to 8 p.m. The Great Pumpkin Decorating Contest is beginning. We are asking all of our departments to submit your pumpkins during the week of October 4th. Your pumpkins will be on display and voted on by our Cobb County constituents. And the votes for the pumpkins will go to benefit Safe Path. Winners will be announced on October 26th. Our last year's winning pumpkin was the Cobb Senior Services Carl Fredrickson from the Up movie. So we're looking forward to seeing the creative talents of our departments this coming year. And lastly, it's Gambrell's Great Pumpkin Day will be on Saturday, October 16th at the Still Family Farms located at 5682 Macklin Road in Powder Springs, Georgia. Attendees will receive $2 off per admission with a donation of boys size 5 to 12 clothes, toilet paper, face mask, and then teens clothing for both boys and girls. All items collected will be donated to Safe Path. To get more information about all the fall fun at the farm, please visit stillfamilyfarms.com. And to learn more about Safe Path, a community free of child abuse, please visit safepath.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Richardson.
So before I hop into my updates, I just want to say many of you have probably engaged with Aaliyah Karju, my administrative assistant slash, I love the concept of deputy commissioner, because truly she does so much. I really appreciate everything that she's done. Anyway, it's her birthday today, so just wanted to say public happy birthday to Aaliyah. And certainly if you do speak with her or send her an email, just say the same thing. Let her know you appreciate her as well. All right. So we did have the youth town hall, mental health town hall on September 14th. And it was a great turnout. A lot of families were able to actually walk away with some useful tips for their families, for their children. And we even had some students show up as well, and got some pretty good engagement. And just really appreciated all the vendors for coming out and our guest speakers. It was a wonderful collaboration with Cobb Collaborative. You see Irene, who is now also appointed to one of our boards as of tonight. But she brought the idea and collaborated with the office, and we hope this is the beginning of several different mental health town halls focusing on different demographics. But it's very timely. We know the impact of the pandemic in so many different ways, but just in general, there are mental health issues that we face as a community. So you can actually watch it. It was streamed live. It's available on YouTube. It's also available on our constituent website, d2cobb.com. Acts of Kindness is still going on from previous, the fundraiser. This is the September one with the Specially Gifted Foundation, nonprofit benefiting families who have children with disabilities to help several families in Cobb. Please visit the page to see the families that this fundraiser will benefit. Learn more about the Specially Gifted Foundation and their work. 100% of the proceeds raised will go directly to families in the form of their requested gift items. The children you can support are Carlos, Jake, Cameron, and JoJo, and Madison, sorry. All are amazing and talented children. Community updates. Library Fall Book Sale. Save the dates. The Cobb County Library System Fall Book Sale will be held October 8th through 10th at the Cobb Civic Center in Marietta. All profits from this book sale go directly to buying more items for Cobb County Public Library's 15 branches. Materials for sale include books for all ages in both hardcover and paperback, DVDs, books on CD, and audio cassette and magazines. Prices range from 10 cents to $4. Hours are from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Friday and Saturday, and 1 to 5 p.m. on Sunday. Plenty of free parking, and all forms are accepted. More information, all forms of payment are accepted. More information, please visit cobbcounty.org/library. Scholarship opportunity out there. Foundation Chapter 587 is offering high school seniors and college students scholarships for college and trade school. They'll be awarding $500 scholarships to Cobb students and graduates. Eligibility requirement: a graduating high school senior or currently enrolled as a freshman or sophomore in trade school, college, or university, cumulative grade point average of 2.5 or higher on a 4.0 scale, and they must be a Cobb County resident or graduate. You can visit the link. And then lastly, hopefully this is helpful for some as well. Reports of damaged homes and property continue to come in to Cobb Emergency Management from previous week's torrential rainfall event. EMA continues to respond to reports, but now there is a tool that will allow you to report damaged property directly to our emergency management teams. Use the link on this QR code. It's a little bit longer, so I'm going to just read through it to fill out the form. Important things to remember: it's only a reporting tool for the flooding event for September 8th. If you've already spoken with Cobb Emergency Management Team, please do not fill out another report. This is only to report damage to essential living spaces. There were many reports of damage to yards. However, this report focuses only on residences, and these are restrictions as defined by the additional state help that we're trying to bring in. The form will ask for a team number or name, simply choose other. Type in the address on the map your location image. A picture representative of the damage is preferred, and the information gathered will be used for a report to GEMA, after which any disaster declaration will be considered. If such a declaration is issued, the county will contact those that have been impacted. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Burrow.
Thank you. A big thank you to Honorary Commanders Association and United Military Care. From August 17th to September 17th, donations were collected to benefit homeless female veterans and those financially struggling. So we thank you for your support. They collected tons of items, and they're in the process of separating them and packing them and distributing them. So thank you to Honorary Commanders, United Military Care, and our tax commissioner, Cobb County Government, Cobb County Sheriff's Office, for all having collection points at their locations, and for all those who donated and supported our women, our homeless female veterans. Another thank you to Lassiter High School Green Club for helping keep Cobb County's District 3 beautiful. For more information on our Adopt a Mile program, you can visit keepcobbbeautiful.org. The Veterans Memorial Foundation received a $50,000 donation from the Atlanta Braves for the memorial that is we're fundraising for now, and also received $2,000 through the Cobb Republican Women's Caring for America project. And those were presented, the Braves was presented at a Braves game, and I was honored to be part of the foundation committee, and the other check was presented at the luncheon where Governor Kemp spoke. Also, a big thank you to Resurgence Orthopedics Charitable Foundation for donating $10,000 to the Police Athletic League for their Special Needs Field Day. So we thank you, Resurgence, for your generous donation. Congratulations to Cobb County Veterans Accountability and Treatment Court and the Cobb County Family Treatment Court. We have a great collection of accountability courts in Cobb, and these are just some of the two of the accountability courts that are being recognized and awarded recognition. And you've already heard about the book sale. It's very popular, and it's back in person. I know Chairwoman Cupid and her boys will be there. Diaper Day this year is virtual. As you know, this was a project that was started by the late Barbara Hickey, I think about 10 or 11 years ago. And you can donate at their website, cobbdiaperday.com, and you can also go online. There's a link on the diaperday.com, cobbdiaperday.com, that you can ship diapers directly to the location. So that's a great event for folks in need. And last but not least, on November 6th at Jim Miller Park, we are honoring women veterans. And the event is from 1 to 3. There will be a lot of vendors there for benefits and for the veterans, female veterans. All are invited, women and men. We have 4 speakers from the different eras, wars, and it's going to be a great event. And we are partnering with the Cobb Veterans, the Georgia Department of Veteran Services, U.S. Veterans Affairs, and Cobb County Government. We will also have vaccines on site that day as well. And then be sure and sign up for my newsletter and also our contact information. And that's all my comments.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Sheffield.
Thank you, Madam Chair. All right, District 4 news and updates. Ann McGee has been a member of the Forest Acres Civic Club in unincorporated Smyrna since 1976. She served as the HOA president for 8 years and remains active in the community. In memory of her daughter, Miss Ann created the Peanut McGee Good Neighbor Award to honor those in her community in the community for their service. As service runs through her veins, she began her service to Station 4 after September 11, 2001. In October 2001, she gifted the firemen of Station 4 with a red, white, and blue fruit basket in memory of the 15 firemen found in the towers on that dreadful day. In the years since, she has adopted 63 sons, the firefighters at Fire Station 4 in Cobb County, and has expanded her family to firemen to include Stations 3, 4, and 19. She received an outpouring of love from the firefighters and the community. It was a privilege to acknowledge such a beautiful, caring, and selfless person. Thank you. Thank you. She's fantastic. Next slide. This past Sunday, I had the opportunity to speak at the International We Love You Foundation volunteers and staff members at their blood drive. September is Sickle Cell Awareness Month, and the We Love You Foundation thought the timing was perfect to host a blood drive at the Georgia Well Congress Center. The organization is determined to improve the lives of the global community beyond the borders of nationality, race, socioeconomic status, and religious background. A special thanks to the organization for continuously finding positive ways to help our communities. Childhood Obesity Month. Thank you to Sharing Spaces for Health for their continuous work in fighting childhood obesity. Sharing Spaces for Health is funded by Healthcare Georgia Foundation and supported by Cobb 2020. The goal of this initiative is to offer more quality opportunities for physical activity in order to reverse the trend of childhood obesity in Cobb County. Sharing Spaces encourage community partners to offer public access to their facilities such as gyms, indoor and outdoor health facilities so that kids, teens, and their families can become more physically active in their own neighborhoods. For more information about Sharing Spaces, please send an email to info@cobb2020.com. The Smyrna Goodwill Center and the City of Austell have partnered to host a community resource and job fair at the Collar Park Community Center on October 20th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Job training program materials will be distributed. Individuals may select interview attire from Goodwill as employers will conduct on-site interviews. Vaccination opportunities will also be available. For more information, contact Trey at tbenham, BENHAM, at gang.org. Parapros needed. Gordon State College is recruiting parapros who would like to become a classroom teacher but also need to remain employed while completing their degree. If interested, there will be 3 informational sessions on Tuesday, October 5th, Thursday, October 28th, and Wednesday, November 10th. Please visit gordonstate.edu for additional information. The fair is in town and is held at Jim Miller Park from September 23rd through October 3rd. There are plenty of activities to partake, such as animal shows, beauty pageant performances, exhibits, food, and lots of entertainment. For more information, including the schedule, please visit northgeorgiastatefair.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right. In follow-up to the announcement about the fair, there will be vaccines provided at the fair between October 1st and 3rd. Advanced registration is required, and you can sign up by using the QR code that's on the screen. If anybody wants to know about any construction projects going on around Cobb, you can feel free to use this QR code that's here on the screen. I also encourage you to sign up for commissioner newsletters where that information is also published. I'd like to thank our housing providers. Many of them were here earlier today but have left, but they have helped us give away more, I shouldn't say give away, but provide to families over 2/3 of our emergency rental assistance funds for families that have qualified. This has helped to keep roofs over many of their heads during this time. And unfortunately, today, with the support of commissioners, we were able to augment funding with a second tranche of ERA funding from the federal government to continue to help with rental assistance. Cobb County is currently in the midst of its 21-day racial equity challenge in partnership with United Way. I encourage you to still take part if you want to learn more about this matter. It's things of learning the difference between equity and diversity and fairness. Equality can all be learned by participating in this, and you can also learn more about why this is becoming more part of our community discussions and even discussions in the workplace. Today is National Voter Registration Day. For those of you who are not registered, you may do so here in Georgia by visiting mvp.sos.ga.gov. MVP stands for My Voter Page. And for our registered voters, you can go to that page to learn more about your registration. You can find out about who your representatives are in your district or community, and you can also find out where your polling location is, amongst other matters. This past weekend, we kicked off our first youth commission with the leadership of Vanessa Drayton, who serves as chief assistant in my office. She was also supported by my executive assistant, Jennifer DeVault, and many staff members who sacrificed their weekend to be here. I was excited, actually encouraged by the interest of our young persons and how quickly they came together to form a bond and wanting to serve Cobb. We told them they had to participate in about 6 events. I think my chief assistant wanted them to do 8 events, and when they saw the calendar, they told us they wanted to do more. And so it just warms my heart to see their level of interest in learning about this level of government. Just thank you for participating today. I want to thank our speakers, and I also want to acknowledge Commissioner Gambrell's comments. Commissioner Gambrell certainly meant no slight to you in not answering your question after I addressed comments today. And this is part of the difficulty that I do have as chair, as I want to facilitate participation from all of our commissioners and all of our residents that come here to speak, but also do it in a way that allows us to keep decorum and also to not disrespect others who are here. And there just seems to be a point, and it's very difficult to know when a line is crossed that can cause an offense to someone. And I felt a line was crossed today with respect to making comments that had to deal with geography or place in a way that just, to me, it didn't sit well with me, and I would want to make sure a leader in the room addressed that. If a comment were to be directed towards someone, like me and if I felt offended. So if you felt any slight, Commissioner, I certainly do apologize. And I did ask our county attorney to let me know about how commissioners do participate in our public hearings, because generally we do have the public participate, but certainly commissioners should have opportunity to have their questions answered. But with that, and those who are hearing me today, especially on this board, I need your help because serving in this chair is not easy. As, again, it's my desire to make sure that we have full participation from everyone, even if we disagree, and that is always my goal. So with that, again, thank you for being here tonight, and I hope everyone has a great rest of your evening and week.